Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama
Thank you.
Rama Hare Hare.
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Haribo
Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare
Bolo
Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare
Bolo
Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Nitya
Hare.
Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari
Nitya Gaura Premanandi ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana ki jai. Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. Tonight we are going to discuss Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Radha Nilamadava ki jai. Tonight we're going to discuss the tiny world of modern science by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. During a morning walk in April 1973 at Venice Beach, Los Angeles, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada discussed modern science and its high priests. They claim, Prabhupada said, to have millions of dollars worth of knowledge. But if you ask them a question, they simply give you a post-dated check. Why should we accept it? They cannot even produce a spear of grass through their biological or chemical experiments. Nonetheless, they are claiming that the creation is produced by some chemical or biological method. Why does no one question all this nonsense? Srila Prabhupada. The whole world of science and technology is running on the false idea that life is born from matter. We cannot allow this nonsensical theory to go unchallenged. Life does not come from matter. Matter is generated from life. This is not theory, it is fact. Science is based on an incorrect theory today. Therefore, all its calculations and conclusions are wrong. The people are suffering because of this. When all these mistaken modern scientific theories are corrected, people will become happy. So we must challenge the scientists and defeat them. Otherwise, they will mislead the entire society. And well, they already did that, unfortunately. Matter changes in 6 phases: birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, dwindling, and death. But the life within matter, the spirit soul, is eternal. It goes through no such changes. Life appears to be developing and decaying, but actually, it is simply passing through each of these 6 phases until the material body can no longer be maintained. Then the old body dies and the soul enters a new body. When our clothing is old and worn, we hang it. Similarly, one day our bodies become old and useless, and we pass on to a new body. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 13th verse, Dehinosmin yata dehe ko maran yovanam jara Tata dehantara prapti. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. And a little later, second chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 18th verse, Antavanta ime deha nichasyokta saririna. This means that only the material body of the indestructible and eternal entity or soul is subject to destruction. This material body is perishable, but the life within the body, the soul, is nitya, eternal. According to the Vedas, the measurement of the soul within the body is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. And that's really small, 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. This is very small. In fact, it is atomic. Yet, because of that atomic spiritual energy, my body is working, your body also. It is so difficult to understand. Is it so difficult to understand? Suppose a man thinks himself very stout and strong. Why is he stout and strong? Only because within his body is a small spiritual spark. But as soon as that spark, spiritual spark, is gone, his body dies, and his strength and vigor become void. If scientists say that matter is the cause and origin of life, then let them bring one dead man back to life by injecting him with chemicals. But they cannot do it. Dr. Singh, since scientists cannot see the spirit soul, they say its existence is very doubtful. Srila Prabhupada, how can they see it? It is too small to see. Where is such seeing power? Dr. Singh, still they want to sense it by some means. Srila Prabhupada, if you inject just 1 grain of deadly poison into someone, he immediately dies. No one can see the poison or how it acts, but the poison is acting nevertheless. In the same way, the Vedas say that because the minute particle called the soul is within the body, the whole body is working nicely. If I pinch myself, I immediately feel it because I am conscious all over my skin. But as soon as the soul is absent within the body, which is the case when my body dies, you can take the same skin and cut it and chop it, and no one will protest. Why is this simple thing so hard to understand? Is this not detecting spirit? Dr. Singh, that is the soul, but what about God? Srila Prabhupada, first of all, let us understand the soul. The soul is a small God. If you understand the sample, then you can understand the whole. Now, here is matter. Srila Prabhupada points at a dead tree within his cane. With his cane, I'm sorry. He points at a dead tree with his cane. Formerly, leaves and twigs were growing from this tree. Why are they not growing now? Can the scientists answer this question? Devotee, they would say the chemical composition has changed. Srila Prabhupada, all right, then if they are so advanced in knowledge of chemistry, they must supply the proper chemicals to make the branches and leaves grow again. Devotee, knowledge means that one must be able to demonstrate his theory. They should be able to show in their laboratories that life is caused by a combination of chemicals. Srila Prabhupada, yes, the scientific method means first observation, then hypothesis, and then demonstration. But these scientists cannot demonstrate their hypothesis. They simply observe and then they speak nonsense. That's the truth. Scientists say that the chemicals are the cause of life, but all the chemicals that were there when the tree was living are still present, and life energy is also there. There are thousands of microbes in the tree, and they are all living entities. No one can claim that life energy is lacking in the body of this tree, even though the tree itself is dead. Dr. Singh, but what about the life energy of the tree itself? Srila Prabhupada, yes, that is the difference. The living force is individual, and a particular individual living entity, which was the tree, has left. This must be the case, since all the chemicals that are necessary to support life are still there, yet the tree is dead. Here is another example. Suppose I am living in an apartment, and then I leave it. I am gone, but many other living entities remain there, ants, spiders, and so forth. It is not true that simply because I have left the apartment, it can no longer accumulate life. Other living entities are still living there. It is simply that I, an individual living being, have left. The chemicals in the tree are like the apartment, the soul to act through. Thus, scientists will never be able to produce life in the chemical laboratory. The so-called scientists say that life begins from chemicals. But the real question is, where have the chemicals come from? The chemicals come from life. And this means that life has mystic power. For example, an orange tree contains many oranges, and each orange contains chemicals, citric acid and others. So where have these chemicals come from? Obviously, they have come from the life within the tree. The scientists are missing the origin of the chemicals. They have started their investigation from the chemicals, but they cannot identify the origin of the chemicals. Chemicals come from the supreme life, God, just as the living body of a man produces many chemicals. The supreme life, the Supreme Lord, is producing all chemicals found in the atmosphere, in the water, in humans, in animals, and in the earth. And that is called mystic power. Unless the mystic power of the Supreme Lord is accepted, there is no solution to the problem of the origin of life. Dr. Singh, the scientists will reply that they cannot believe in mystic power, Srila Prabhupada, but they must explain the origin of the chemicals. Anyone can see that an ordinary tree is producing many chemicals. They cannot deny it. But how does it produce them? Since they cannot answer this, they must accept that the living force has mystic power. I cannot explain how my fingernail is growing out of my finger. It is beyond my power of my brain. In other words, it is growing by inconceivable potency or achintya shakti. So, if achintya shakti exists in an ordinary being, imagine how much achintya shakti God possesses. The difference between God and me is that although I have the same potencies as God, I can produce only a small quantity of chemicals, whereas he can produce enormous quantities. I can produce a little water in the form of perspiration, but God can produce the seas and oceans. Analysis of one drop of seawater gives you the qualitative analysis of the sea without any mistake. Similarly, the ordinary living being is part and parcel of God. So by analyzing the living beings, we can begin to understand God. That's a very profound statement. Let me read that again. Analysis of one drop of seawater gives you the qualitative analysis of the sea without any mistake. Similarly, the ordinary living being is part and parcel of God. So by analyzing the living beings, we can begin to understand God. In God, there is great mystic potency. God's mystic potency is working swiftly, exactly like an electric machine. Machines operate by certain energy, and they are so nicely made that all the work is done simply by pushing a button. Similarly, God said, "Let there be creation," and then was creation. Considering in this way, the workings of nature are not very difficult to understand. God has such wonderful potencies that the creation, on his order alone, immediately takes place. Devotee. Scientists don't accept God or Achinya Shakti. Prabhupada. That is their rascaldom. God exists, and his Achintya Shakti also exists. Devotee. And I say to them, why don't you create life? Your biology and chemistry are very advanced. Why don't you create life? Devotee. They say they will create life in the future. Srila Prabhupada. When in the future? If the scientists know the creative process, why can't they create life now? If life has a biochemical origin, and if biologists and chemists are so advanced, then why can't they create life in their laboratories? When this crucial point is raised, they say, we shall do it in the future. Why in the future? That is nonsense. Trust no future, however pleasant. What is the meaning of their advancement? They are talking nonsense. Devotee. They say that they are right on the verge of creating life. Srila Prabhupada. But that is also the future in a different way. They must accept that they still do not know the truth about the origin of life. Since they are expecting to be able to create life in the future, presently their knowledge must be imperfect. Their proposal is something like giving someone a post-dated check. Suppose I owe you $10,000 and I say, yes, I will pay you the entire sum with this post-dated check. Is that all right? If you are intelligent, you will reply, at present, give me at least $5 in cash so I can see something tangible. Similarly, the scientists cannot produce even a single blade of grass by biochemistry, yet still they claim that life is produced from matter. What is this nonsense? Is no one questioning this? We can prove that life began from life. Here is the proof. When a father begets a child, the father is living and the child is living. But where is the scientist's proof that life comes from matter? We can prove that life begins from life, and we can also prove that the original life is Krishna. But what evidence exists that a child is ever born out of a dead stone? The scientists cannot prove that life comes from matter. They are leaving this aside for the future. Devotee. The basis of what scientists call scientific integrity is that they talk only about what they can experience through their senses. Srila Prabhupada. Then they are suffering from what is called Dr. Frog's philosophy. There was once a frog who had lived all his life in a well. One day a friend visited him and informed him of the existence of the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, what is this Atlantic Ocean? Asked the frog in the well. It is a vast body of water, his friend replied. How vast? Is it double the size of my well? One second. Oh, no, much larger, his friend replied. How much larger? 10 times the size? In this way, the frog went on calculating. But what was the possibility of his ever understanding the depths and far reaches of the great ocean? Our faculties, experience, and powers of speculation are always limited. The frog was always thinking in terms relative to his well. He had no power to think otherwise. Similarly, the scientists are estimating the absolute truth the cause of all causes with their imperfect senses and minds, and thus they are bound to be bewildered. The essential fault of the so-called scientists is that they have adopted the inductive process to arrive at their conclusions. For example, if a scientist wants to determine whether or not man is mortal by the inductive process, he must study every man to try to discover if some or one of them may be immortal. The scientist says, I cannot accept the population that all men are mortal. There may be some men who are immortal. I have not yet seen every man. Therefore, how can I accept that man is mortal? This is called the inductive process. And the deductive process means that your father, your teacher, or your guru says that man is mortal, and you accept it. Devotee. So there is an ascending process of gaining knowledge and a descending process. Prabhupada, yes. The ascending process will never be successful because it relies on information gathered through the senses, and the senses are imperfect. So we accept the descending process. God cannot be known by the inductive process. Therefore, he is called ahoksaja, which means unknowable by direct perception. The scientists say there is no God because they are trying to understand by direct perception. But he is ahoksaja. Therefore, the scientists are ignorant of God because they are missing the method of knowing him. In order to understand transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master, hear from him submissively, and render service to him. Lord Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita 4.34. Tad vidi pranipatena paripasnena sevaya. Dr. Singh, or devotee, there is a scientific journal called Nature. It contains articles concerning natural products like plants and animals, but it does not mention God, only nature. Prabhupada, we may correctly observe that plants are being produced by nature, but we must ask, what has produced nature? To ask this question is intelligence. Dr. Singh, the scientists don't think about that, Srila Prabhupada. So they are fools. As soon as we speak of nature, the next question should be, whose nature? For instance, I speak of my nature and you speak of your nature. Therefore, as soon as nature is mentioned, the next inquiry should be, whose nature? Nature means energy, and as soon as you speak of energy, you must accept that there is a source of that energy. For example, the source of electric energy is the electric powerhouse. Electricity is not produced automatically. We must install a powerhouse and a generator. Similarly, in the Vedas, it is said that material nature is working under Krishna's direction. Dr. Singh, so do you mean to say that science has started from an intermediate point, not from the original point? Srila Prabhupada, yes, that is it exactly. They are ignorant of the origin. The scientists start from one point, but where does that point come from? That they do not know, in spite of vast research. One has to accept that the original source is Krishna, who is full of all mystic powers and from whom everything emanates. He himself says in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pavartate. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Our conclusions are not based on blind faith. They are most scientific. Matter comes from life. In life, in the origin, there are unlimited material resources. That is the great mystery of creation. Modern scientific research is just like Sankhya philosophy, which analyzes material elements. Sankhya means to count. We are also Sankhya philosophers to some extent because we count and analyze the material elements. This is land, this is water, this is air, this is sunshine, this is fire. Furthermore, I can count my mind, my intelligence, and my ego. Beyond my ego, however, I cannot count. But Krishna says that there is existence beyond the ego, and that existence is the life force, the spirit soul. This is what the scientists do not know. They think that life is merely a combination of material elements. But Krishna denies this in the Bhagavad Gita 7.5. Aparayam itastwanyam pakritim vidime param. Besides this inferior nature, there is a superior energy of mind. The inferior energy is the material elements, and the superior energy is the living entity. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhir evacha ahankara ityam me bina prakritirastada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Krishna explains here in the Bhagavad Gita that vayu, gas, comes from him, and that finer than gas is kam, ether. Finer than ether is the mind. Finer than the mind is intelligence, and finer than the intelligence is the soul. But the scientists do not know this. They can perceive only gross things. They mention vayu, but where does the vayu come from? Where does the gas come from? Dr. Singh, that they cannot answer. Srila Prabhupada. But we can answer. We have the knowledge that gas comes from kam, or ether, and ether comes from mind. Mind comes from intelligence, and intelligence comes from Krishna's superior energy, the spirit soul. Dr. Singh, are both inferior and superior energies studied in Sankhya philosophy? Prabhupada, no. Sankhya philosophers do not know of superior energy. They simply analyze the material elements just as the scientists do. Neither the scientists nor the Sankhya philosophers know anything of the spirit soul. They are simply analyzing Krishna's material energy. Dr. Singh, they are analyzing the creative material elements. Srila Prabhupada, material elements are not creative. The soul is creative. No one can create life with only matter, and matter cannot create itself. You, a living entity, can mix hydrogen and oxygen to create water, but matter itself has no creative energy. If you place a bottle of hydrogen near the bottle of oxygen, will they automatically combine without your help? Dr. Singh, no. They must be mixed. Srila Prabhupada, yes. The superior energy, the living entity, is required. Oxygen and hydrogen are inferior energy, but when the superior energy mixes them, then they can become water. Inferior energy has no power unless superior energy is involved. By the way, that proves that the so-called robots will never be able to come to the level of a human being. You will always have to depend on human beings to run these robots. But yet, some people claim that, by 2040, the robots will become as intelligent as human beings. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's not true. Okay, I'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments about what we have heard tonight from Srila Prabhupada, and any questions? Well, the main question is this. The scientists believe that matter is the cause of life, but they can't prove it. So therefore, they're not scientists. Science means observation, experimentation, proof. Right? But they've never proven that life comes from matter. So their whole philosophy is false. And by the way, they are violating their own philosophy. They also know that you have to prove a hunch or whatever you're trying to prove. You have to have proof of it. But when it comes to what is the cause of life, they can't prove anything. They don't really know how life has come into existence. But yet, they make many theories without proof. That's the situation of science today. They're making so many theories without actually having the proof and without demonstrating proof of their theories. Now, there are some things that they can demonstrate, but the serious things about life comes from matter, they've never proven. Because life doesn't come from matter, it comes from life, you see. So the most important thing, that life comes from matter, according to the scientists, that is false. And they don't have the proof to prove that life comes from matter. But yet, they teach kids in school. They have it in the science books. Is it not? When you were studying science in high school, where did they say in the science book that life comes from? No, wait a minute. Look up in the internet or CHOP, whatever it is, Chat DBT or whatever. What did the science say that is the source of life? Anyone? Go ahead, read if you haven't.
Yeah, there are some leading scientific perspectives on the source of life. One of them is abiogenesis. Abiogenesis is a scientific hypothesis that life arose naturally from non-living matter through chemical processes.
Through what?
Through chemical processes.
Have they proven that? Did they do an experiment?
It is a scientific hypothesis.
It's complete nonsense. Go ahead. Huh? Scientific nonsense. Go ahead.
Second one is the RNA world hypothesis. This theory posits that RNA molecules capable of storing genetic information and catalyzing chemical reactions were the precursors to life.
Have they proven that? It's a theory.
It's also theory.
Yeah. It's all speculation.
Another theory, hydrothermal vent hypothesis.
Okay.
Life might have originated.
Might have.
Might have, yeah. Yet hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, where hot, mineral-rich water provided the energy and chemical conditions necessary for life.
That's another theory. You can throw that one in the garbage can. That's a very weak theory. Anything else? Another theory?
Yeah, another theory is panspermia. This hypothesis suggests that life or its building blocks came to Earth from elsewhere in the universe, such as
From elsewhere in the universe.
yes, such
Like,
as meteorites or comets.
oh, so it's the comets that crashed into the Earth and brought some
Like
special, who knows what.
chemicals. Yeah, and then there's
That's a real nonsense theory, that one.
yeah, and some
Well, by the way, what's the proof? Go ahead.
clay hypothesis. Some scientists propose that life began on clay surfaces.
On what?
Clay, C-L-A-Y, clay.
Clay.
Uh-huh. Clay surfaces, which could have acted as a template for the assembly of complex organic
Which
molecules.
could have.
Yeah.
But have they done the experiment? Did they get the clay? Come on, it's nonsense. Go ahead.
Metabolism first models. These models propose that self-sustaining chemical networks resembling metabolism emerged before genetic material. So this is another theory. And another theory, quantum and emergent complexity theories.
Oh, they're big words.
Yeah. Some theories suggest that life's emergence is tied to the fundamental laws of physics, including quantum mechanics and self-organizing systems.
Self-organizing systems. That is complete nonsense. You need a human being to organize something. Self-organizing. My God.
Maharaj, finally in the summary it says, but the exact mechanism is still under investigation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for the next 30,000 years. Yeah.
And then there's actually what I have is what science doesn't yet know. It's a summary. They did all this, but that is at end of that is saying that conclusion. What science doesn't yet know. The exact steps that led from chemistry to biology remain unknown. We don't yet have a lab-generated living organism from non-life.
All right. But yet they're getting funds. A lot of funds to have fun. The whole thing is hoax. It's all big hoax. And they're getting big money. Big money. Millions and millions of dollars to go nowhere. You know. Okay, my dear devotees, now you know what the truth is. The scientists are not real scientists. They are basically what you would call, them? They are thieves, just taking money and doing all kinds of nonsense theories and all kinds of nonsense experimentation, but not coming up with the real truth. Haribol. Okay, so thank you very much. Now we know all about the scientists. They're a bunch of nonsense people. But wait a minute. They have done some real big, experimentation and creation. The atomic bomb. Whoa, that's big science, right? So they have found out how to kill many people faster with all the weapons they have, all kinds of weapons. That they have tremendous, what you would say, advancement. And they're using all those weapons now to kill people. But as far as stopping people from dying, zero. They don't know anything about that. But to kill people faster, no, they've gone very fast and very advanced science, how to kill more people faster. Now you can see how demoniac they've become. The best, let's say, inventions they've made is killing people faster. That's where their real advancement is. So, anyway, be careful. Be very careful. You gotta watch out for the doctors also.
Even the killing is also not, because in the Dwapara Yuga, Arjuna had much more stronger weapons.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Even now they
In
only have a
18
big
days, they killed hundreds and thousands and millions of people.
Yeah, so I think
Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees.
when Dhruva Maharaj went on a fight on the Ekshasas,
They had to
we can
stop him.
really see what kind of weapons they had.
Yeah, but they stopped him though.
Yes, he was stopped.
Haribo, Prabhupada.